so much. How are you doing this evening?
Very well, very spirited.
Oh, me too. We all are. In fact, I'm so teary-eyed. I hope my makeup's still in place. But it's so wonderful, and thank you for joining us on this special occasion. You're really gracing us with your presence, and we are honored to have you here this evening. Thank you so much. May I have ma'am on stage, please? Ms. Gurinder Chadha for you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Everyone feeling Christmassy?
We're overwhelmed, ma'am. The film, I cried and cried and cried, and I had to just make sure I'm okay. Beautiful, touching, heartwarming, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
So many beautiful messages. I now open the floor to all of you. So you'll be talking to ma'am, and there'll be a fantastic conversation, and then we'll open the floor for Q&A. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I'd like to take this opportunity for thanking Gurinder to actually ask me to do this. Gurinder is a filmmaker I have deep amount of regard, respect and reverence for. I've had the pleasure and privilege of knowing for decades now. I still remember my very first time at the Cannes Film Festival where I saw her breakthrough film, Bend It Like Beckham. And you know, it was a packed hall and full, and I remember watching it very clearly with my father. And I remember him feeling so proud about the Punjabi representation in the film. And he was like, so I could tell that, you know, he had an effusive smile and he was so happy with the fact that the Punjabi music played. And, you know, it is really a true representation of the Sikh, Punjabi, British diaspora combination that came through so efficiently, effectively and beautifully in Bend It Like Beckham. From then on, Gurinder has gone on from strength to strength and really pushed boundaries by also actually opening doors for our culture in the West. She's walked a fine line but done it so beautifully and so effectively. And today, with her recent film that moved all of us, I remember watching this film and being so moved by it, that Christmas karma has really been great for everyone's karma cycle. And congratulations to this absolutely stunning moving film.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I remember them meeting in Cannes. It was outside the Star Cinema, Star Recall, and I was thrilled because there were two Indian people there, you know, amongst all the Ferengis. So I was like, two people of my own, and I didn't know you then. And I remember your father absolutely beaming. And then I went up to say hello, and then he patted me on the back and said, shabash, shabash, which actually meant a lot because I just lost my father a couple of years before. So to have that, you know, blessing from him was really amazing. So I remember that moment.
Well, let's start with Gurinder, with the moment of the day, which is us chatting about the film of this special evening, Christmas Karma. Now, you took on the very bold decision to adapt the 1843 novella, by Charles Dickens and A Christmas Carol. And I know there's been some furor about it, but we won't get into that. Today's the day of celebration.
Please, you can get into it, it's fine.
Because there's been, like, of course, everyone suddenly has gone like crazy talking about how can you touch Dickens, but like everyone who adapts something that's this solid is actually paying homage, paying respect. And they say, very simply put, imitation is a form of flattery, but this is not even imitation, it's adaptation. And adaptation done so effortlessly. So what do you have to say to the naysayers first?
Well, I think as I said in my introduction, what I do is make films from my perspective. My perspective is being British, being Indian, being Punjabi, being a mother, coming from an ancestral cycle which encompasses partition and refugees coming from that side to India, to Africa, to Britain. So I carry all those things with me, and when you're a child of parents and grandparents that have been through that, you're always carrying the sort of struggle of your ancestors, but you're also wanting to celebrate their successes.
Right.
So that's why my films are often quite bipolar. You know, they get very serious because they deal with some of the struggles of having those fusion identities, but at the same time I refuse to be pigeonholed, because the West, I think, often likes to see us as problems and tell our stories as problems, but I always try and subvert that by saying, yeah, this all happens, but look how we deal with it, and look how strong we are in the celebration of it. And that's a tightrope that I kind of walk with every film, and I kind of did that in this film too. But I think that comes from having that background where you're constantly wanting to please your parents. And that's something I know you understand, you know, and I think that's a child of immigrants, but it's also very Indian, that duty you feel. So, you know, I feel like every film I make in some ways is a sort of salute to my parents and what they taught me. And I think this film with the East African connection, I wanted to tell that story of how the British Empire worked by taking Indians from India to Africa to build East Africa and Uganda in particular, and then how the British really pissed off Idi Amin, and so to have a go at them, go at the British, he threw the Indians out, and so they came to Britain as refugees, and no one sort of knows that story. And so in this film, I just wanted to show that story and then show how someone with that trauma can get over it and has to get over it in order to live a happy life. Now, that's my story, that's what I think. But of course, if I was a older white gentleman, that's not the history that they want to see. So of course, wo pitenge, you know, minita sab kuch dikhaya from what I think is asliyat and the truth. But of course, I'm holding a mirror up to a period of history that perhaps they don't think is important to talk about or even show
Or
in
even
a Christmas,
for that matter.
or even acknowledge.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting now there's a whole debate where we feel that some people aren't equipped to talk about our films because
Right.
they don't understand the cultural processes that go into it. And sadly, some of the people that I'm referring to in England have not engaged with the content of the film. They've just said, you can't do a Christmas film. And
Right.
I've said, yes, I can. Watch me. And that's the debate. But, you know, I have to say, this is what everyone was doing. All up, Bhagat Singhs and Udham Singhs, and everyone was saying the same thing. That we want to live our life our way. So in a way, I'm sort of still kind of carrying that tradition, but through film and entertainment.
So are you saying that they actually are questioning your audacity, so to say?
They're actually
Yeah.
questioning my right
Yeah.
to adapt Dickens
Of course.
and to make a film about Christmas.
Yes.
But interestingly, when I did Bride and Prejudice and Jane Austen, no one said anything. That wasn't an issue at all. So I think it's a marker of how the country has changed.
Right.
And sort of the rise we have of sort of bigoted sort of racism in some quarters of Britain, probably.
When you speak about you speak about racism, you know, that brings me to the strong subtext that Christmas Karma has. And what is amazing about your films is that while they're entertaining, they're emotional, they're moving, as is Christmas Karma in abundance, there's such strong subtext that you wanted to say. Like you spoke about the whole East Africa movement, and you've spoken about so much already to do with the subtext of your various films. Particularly, was there a certain subtext that you wanted to put through in Christmas Karma that was close to your heart in terms of your belief system?
Absolutely. Bend It Like Beckham was 23 years ago.
Yeah.
When I wrote Bend It, I was Jess Bumrah. Now I'm the mother.
Yeah.
You know, I yell at my kids in the way she yells at her kids.
Yeah.
And my kids are very different. They see race very differently to me. And one of the incidents that happened was my son, when he was 8, was in school, in the school playground, and in his class was all English boys, and there were 2 Indian boys. And one of the English boys turned to the other Indian boy and said, "Your skin's the same color as poo." And everyone sort of froze, my son froze, and then this one English boy came up to him and said, "You can't say that, that's wrong." And the English boy said, "Yes, I can, because it's true." And my son didn't know what to do, didn't understand racism as such, and then out of nowhere, all the English boys surrounded that one English boy and said, "Take it back, that's racist. Take it back, that's wrong. You're not allowed to say that." So these 8-year-olds did an intervention. And that's very different to my experience. So then my son came home, told me what happened, and he said, was it racist, Mum? And I said, well, when he said it, do you think he was trying to be mean? And he said, yes. And I said, did it upset you? He said, yes. And I said, well, then it was racist, son. And so for me, with the films I've made, to have that conversation with my own son, you know, it's a constant reminder that we are always having to negotiate and fight the status quo. But at the same time, we have made huge achievements in Britain. And so I celebrate that too. But in this case, I made this film for not only my children, but all those English boys. Wow. And that's the difference. Yeah. Because Billy Porter says, you know, when Sue does not want to change, and the ghost of Christmas present, Billy Porter says, you have to forgive and you have to move on. Don't let hate define who you are. He's raging. He's saying, no, look at what you've endured. Look what I've endured. And Billy Porter says there are many people embarrassed by the actions of people of the same skin. You know, you have to find the good people. Find the good people, and that's where you'll find redemption. And I love that concept of good people, because that's kind of new thought, you know, for Britain and for me, because race is not about colour anymore, you know, and a film about karma is about, you know, charity and giving and being compassionate. And so good people are compassionate people, regardless of their wealth, their, you know, and their skin colour.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That's amazing. That's so amazing. When you make a film, Gurinder, I know that it's always for you, like when we make feature films, we're making them for you know, India and of course the diaspora, you know. But there are people used to our cinema. They know our culture, they know our tradition, they know the syntax of Indian cinema. When you're making a film, you have a multitude of challenges. One is, of course, you're making it for a Western audience because, you know, predominantly it's in that language. But then you have such strong, the DNA of the film is so Indian, Punjabi, and, you know, so are your musical choices. And so therefore you're trying to communicate that essence to a Western audience, but you also don't want to lose the diaspora, because you want them to love the Indian ethnic subtext of the film that is so beautiful and so moving. Are all these thoughts crossing your mind as a creative artist?
Totally. It's like when I land in India and in the hotel, I go for breakfast. First thing is so many choices. I always have the parathas, I have the theplas, I have whatever the pav bhaji special, whatever it is, anda bread or whatever they call it. I have all the Indian stuff. And then after 2 days, I'm like, oh my God, I just need fried egg and toast. You know, I'm done. I can't do that anymore. I have to balance and mix. And it's the same for me.
With storytelling, yeah.
Huh?
With storytelling.
With storytelling. My impulse is to tell stories of people of the diaspora and people who appreciate those stories where migrants, their parents maybe come from somewhere or their grandparents have come from somewhere, and so they're negotiating traditions and language, maybe a mother tongue, and values while also wanting to inhabit their own space. And interestingly for us now, I think, is the amount of Gen Zs on TikTok and Instagram doing comedy about this, impersonating their parents, and, you know, saying Indian mums be like, Indian dads be like, and then Iranian dads be like, and it's all the same. Chinese mums be like. And so that is what I call a genre. You know, for me, I feel like I have been pushing my own unique genre, which is diaspora filmmaking. And in it, it's fantastic if the Indian audience comes along for the ride. Right. And the good people around the world come along for the ride, because most people around the world live in cities that have diasporas, that have friends, who have families from one place or another, you know, and that's why the success of Bend It is what it is. It's because it touched a nerve for those people who felt seen. And interestingly, with Christmas Karma, because it's opened in Britain, is the Asian community has been sort of overwhelmed, and the messages I get about people feeling so proud and sort of crying and feeling like this was a part of themselves that they had closed off and they got to relive again and deal with because they hadn't dealt with it. So it's touched a very raw nerve with the Asian community. And so now what's happening is a lot of people are questioning the initial guys who try to dismiss it because they're saying, well, actually, look how this community is dealing with it. And interestingly, here in India, I've been doing a lot of press and stuff, and people are quite shocked. They don't understand because they say it's a really good film. What's going on? We don't quite understand. And I said, welcome to the world of racism, guys. This is it. This is, I mean, for the Telegraph to give it 0 stars, I must say, when I saw that, I burst out laughing. I was like, this is hilarious. Because it just shows the world what I have to go through to raise finance and to tell my stories.
But to every Telegraph, there was also a great review by Scroll and several others that loved the film, and they found it moving, and they said it had a lot going on, but yet you walk out with a lump in your throat and you're very moved by the film. And I think the large part of you as a filmmaker, Gurinder, which is something that I've observed in your cinema, is your use of music. Particularly in Christmas Karma, you've used Christmas carols, you've used hip hop, you've used bhangra, you've used Punjabi pop, you've used like choir music. It's literally a beautiful melange and blend of so many schools of music and done it so beautifully. And I know you're an immensely musical person. So does musical play a key component in your storytelling as a device?
Totally. The head of Universal Music in England, in London, saw the film, and he came out and he said, "Oh my God, Gurinder, only you could have made this film. No one else could have put all these artists, this music together. Only you, and you made it make sense." And that's because this is, for me, music is an amazing way to negotiate identities.
Right.
It's a great shortcut to say, this is who I am, but I love this. I mean, I have Lady Lachelle in the film, who is a massive black female hip-hop artist from Birmingham. Then there's Priyanka Chopra, and Gary Barlow, it's Boy George, Pixie Lott, Shaznay Lewis. It's such a diverse selection of people in musical styles. But then, so are we, the music we listen to.
An absolutely beautiful blend.
A blend. No one listens to just one genre of music on their phones, right? Everyone's playlists are everything.
Well, I think what you've made is a crowd pleaser, an audience-friendly film, and I'm sure that audiences in India are also going to be very moved by the film, and I hope they come in large numbers to give it the support and love that it truly deserves, because I think filmmakers such as yourself have truly moved, I think, the needle in the West in terms of how you represent our culture, in the way you represent cinema, and you've done such a consistently relevant job over decades. And to remain relevant after, like you said, Bend It Like Beckham was 23 years ago, to remain relevant as a voice is not easy given the climate we're in. We're combating so much from gaming to streaming.
Yes.
Filmmakers are really struggling to get theatrical footfalls.
Yes.
But here comes an honest film, an earnest film, a film that wants to move you, entertain you, has a strong political subtext, has a strong, never religious, but always social commentary done to its optimum best.
Yes,
spiritual.
Yes.
You've done it so effortlessly,
Thank you
and
so
congratulations.
much. But with this film, again, the financing is such a melange because I have a large chunk from the UK tax credit. Thank you, Rishi Sunak, and Lisa Nandy, Indian, both of them. I had a True Brit, Siggy Kamasa, that's a British distributor who distributed Bend It, and then Civic Studios, Indian studio, and Sunil Sheth, my lovely Indian lawyer, retired, who got all his mates to put their hands in their pockets and come up with a consortium. So the film has been able to exist because of Indian support. Basically.
Much like the film. At its heart, it's Indian. And so is its funding.
That's exactly, thank you. And that's a good thing, actually. And I have to say, I've been, when I first came to do press, I remember when I did press for Bend It in India. some journalists used to say to me, why are you trying to cause racism by making these films? I was like, what? They said, you're in England now, get on with it. Why do you keep trying to talk about race and problems? And I was like, wow. I said, you guys are so parochial. Don't imagine for 1 minute that Indian culture only happens here. Indian culture evolves and develops in Britain. And look at the music industry of Britain and how it's changed your music industry. Cultures evolve, and it's not geographic. It's very, it's not borders. Now it's a different situation totally. So now when I get that kind of, as we say, the gadar I have received from Gen Z particularly and journalists, it's overwhelming, I have to say, because I think people acknowledge what a struggle it is for all of us to make films, at the moment. But I think that there is this acknowledgement that to tell your story is hard, and you have to have a lot of chutzpah and passion. And on this trip in particular, I've been truly grateful to have that love and support from people, because it just makes it easier for me to then go back and fight the battles that I have to fight.
Well, I hope you don't have to fight any more battles. I hope that this film gives you all the victory and love that it rightfully deserves, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Gurinder Chadha.
Thank you.
And this is a film that I request everyone who's watched it to spread the good word, because it's important that films like this reach larger audiences, not just in Britain, in India, across the world and globe, that everyone knows that it's a film with a warm, fuzzy heart, and it's saying something strong, but never not entertaining an audience.
No, and thank you so much for doing this, Karan. I had the pleasure of hearing all about a Hindi film that was doing gangbusters in England, and I thought, God, I better go and see this film, let me see what the fuss is about. And I went into the cinema to watch Rocky and Rani, and it was packed. I was like, oh my God, this theatre is packed in Leicester Square. What's going on? And I absolutely loved the film. And it was full of so much heart. It was very fresh. The characterizations were so modern, but it was also very true to the spirit, I think, of the films your dad liked, right? And I think that I could see Karan in every frame. Honestly, I just came out bursting with pride. And so I called him and I left him a message and said, Karan, I've just spent £13 of my own money to go and see your film, and my God, what a freaking amazing achievement, because you captured the NRI heart in that film. It did gangbusters here, but in Britain we were so proud of it because we laughed at all the jokes and we knew that Ranveer character. We all have cousins like that, we know that person. And it was wonderful. Then immediately I got a message back from Karan thanking me so much for taking the time, and I think it's important that we show that respect. He did say, I'll give you £13 when I see you, so I'm still waiting for that.
Well,
but
I don't have the £30 to give you, but I will say, Karan Johar, this side, very proud of you.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so
Very
much.
proud of your every achievement, Gurinder, and more power to you. May the force of storytelling and your force of conviction never leave you, ever, because we as an audience and as members of the fraternity are forever indebted to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It means a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.